Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Morris. I am with the Autism Support of Alabama. Thank you for joining us today. We are happy to introduce Laura Marie Pope. She is with the Auburn Department of Speech Language Services. I just said that incorrectly. I'm missing part of it. She is with the Auburn Department of Speech Language and Hearing Sciences. She's going to talk to us today about supporting communication of people with minimal speech in daily activities. So thank you so much, Laura Marie, and we're happy to have you, and we'll go ahead and get started. Let me mention to everyone that we do have a link in the chat already to the presentation that she's giving us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I'm really excited to be here and talk with all of you about ways we can support people with minimal speech across their daily interactive contexts. Just in case, I'm going to put the link to the PDF version of the presentation one more time in the chat, just to make sure everyone can see it for sure. So you're welcome to go to that link and download a copy of the PDF of the presentation. Everything we're going to talk about today is also in that PDF. They're the same. Okay, so we are going to do an interactive activity a little bit later in our talk today. So if you'd like to participate, there are free versions of these two apps for iPad, iPhone, Go Visual Experience, and if you have an Android phone or tablet, EasyVSD. I'll show the QR codes later as well, but if you think you'd like to participate in creating some communication supports later in the presentation, feel free to download them, and we'll circle back in a little bit. Okay, so first, this is kind of our overview of what we're going to go through today. I want to do a little bit of who is here, if you're willing to share. We'll talk a little bit about a particular type of communication support called a visual scene display. Talk about when we could use that to support communication or participation across different activities. We'll talk about specifically a shared storybook reading context, which is a pretty easy and engaging way to support participation in that activity, especially for younger children, or you can create storybooks for people who are of any age that are relevant and motivating to them. We'll do our interactive VSD activity with that app we have the QR codes for, and then there'll be time for questions. Okay. So first, if you want to pop in the chat who you are and why you're interested in this talk, I would love that. Are you a person who uses AAC, a parent, caregiver, or family member, an educational team member, a related service provider, anyone else who you might be here interested in this topic? If you would like, please feel free to pop in the chat who you are. We'll give you a second to do so, but if you don't want to, no problem as well. Oh, I think it automatically went to my next slide. That's intriguing. Well,
can you repeat that?
Oh, we got one
just
person.
Had someone join.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I don't know why it keeps automatically advancing. We'll see if you'd like to share, Lauren. Please go ahead. Oh, great to meet you, Lauren. Yes, so sounds like you've got a great little boy and trying to see what might be going on with him, his characteristics. Okay. All right, so today we're going to talk about some quick, easy, and relatively accessible ways to support active participation in daily activities for people with limited speech. And we're going to highlight one specific type of support, and that's visual scene displays, or VSDs. These are just some examples of some of the apps that are available. These are both for iPads that you can use to support your child or family member in those interactive contexts. So first, I want to explain a little bit what a VSD is. It is a type of communication support where you can take a picture of what's going on in your environment, or we often take pictures of storybooks, and then we can add vocabulary that has speech output right into that context. So you can use pictures of familiar digital photographs of your family. You can take a picture right in the moment when your child or family member is engaging in an activity. And then that vocabulary again is embedded or added to the picture itself. So we see these little yellow circles around mom and dad. So you can actually touch those circles and there'll be speech output where it would say mom or dad. So if you touched it, it would say mom. And then it also allows for new vocabulary to be added in the moment. So say you were interacting with your child and your family and you wanted to add the names of the siblings, you could just add a new, what they're called hotspots, these little yellow circles right in the moment, record yourself saying the name of the sibling, and then your child or family member would have access to being able to communicate that concept right then in the moment. Okay, some of the reasons why VSDs can be extra supportive for families across different contexts is that they're quick and easy to program and use. It's pretty quick to take that picture, add in some vocabulary right in the moment. Another nice benefit is VSDs reflect the language of the family and community. Because family members or communication partners are adding in that vocabulary, it's going to be really relevant to how that family or that community talks. And on the same note, then VSDs can really reflect the culture of the family and community because it's family members and community members who are really creating these supports. So a quick video, and there's no sound, so you won't hear any sound, of what it would look like to add in one of those visual scene displays and those communication supports in the moment. So here we've taken a picture of a young child who's doing a fun activity of pretending to talk on the phone. I don't know how many of you are still familiar with this type of phone, but shows our age a little bit. So in order to add some communication supports, you touch that little green plus sign, you draw around whatever concept you want to add supports for. Then you'd record your voice saying whatever you want the hotspot to say when it's activated. So maybe you choose to have it say something like, hello. Oh, in my videos. So now if you or the child or family member were to touch that yellow hotspot, it would have that voice output of hello and allow the child to participate in that pretend phone call activity. I do want to point out, though, a lot of the examples we're going to talk about are with younger children, but visual scene displays can also be really supportive of young adults and adults who would benefit from something to supplement their speech and increase their participation. There's a fair amount of research looking at using visual scene displays to support adults in vocational or workplace settings in their day-to-day life. So it's not something that's restricted to young children. So visual scene displays or VSDs can actually support a lot of different parts of someone's day-to-day life. For really early language learners that are still kind of learning different concepts and different words, VSDs can support that language learning because we're putting that vocabulary of those words in these really familiar scenes and activities. We can add new vocabulary just in time. So if you're having a bath time activity with your child and they splash in the tub, you can add the word splash in the picture of them playing in the tub right in the moment. And it sort of naturally supports the learning of those early language concepts. When we're thinking about supporting language, this is kind of a lot of information, we often want to think about adding in single words to the hotspots in our VSD. So some of those typical single words that we think about young children who use speech using initially. So in this example, we might be thinking about nouns like baby, tub, bubbles, rubber ducky, different body parts, verbs like wash, splash, dry. maybe some social words like night night or brr, and then maybe some familiar adjectives like messy, clean, or dirty to help children within this activity learn those words and use them expressively. VSDs can also support active participation in activities for people who might use or need AAC or have minimal speech. Again, they often reflect exactly that activity that's going on, but they're more focused on engagement and active participation. And I just realized that this video does have sound, so let me make sure that I have shared it with you all, because I think I did not initially. Audio settings. Oh, I know where it is. Sorry. Still working on my team's skills.
I'm gonna blow bubbles.
Oh, I assume you all can't hear that. I'm gonna try.
I could hear it. It says, I'm going to blow a bubble.
Okay, great. I did it without even intending to. Okay, so we're going to see a few examples of really these VSDs with the extra communication supports, allowing for active participation in a variety of activities. Oh, sorry, it paused.
You stomp them with your feet?
Blow bubbles.
Hey, Chase.
I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Blue or raspberry? Blue or raspberry?
So in this context, visual scene displays are kind of supporting active participation in these social interactions and social routines. So playing chase, popping bubbles, blowing a raspberry. The children have a means to really participate actively. VSDs can also support social interaction more generally for people with minimal speech. There's a shared context for conversation, so you're both kind of looking at the same thing together, which supports communication. We have those supports within the VSD for communication, and there could be sort of more equal opportunities for participation with peers or family members, where the person with minimal speech can participate by touching hotspots. The person who uses speech could also touch some hotspots and use speech as well. This has been effective for shared storybook reading with peers, play activities with peers or siblings, and some shared video viewing with peers for a slightly older kids, so teenagers and young adults. We don't have these videos available to share during the presentation, but there are a couple of links here that are also in the PDF where you can go to a web page that has some videos with two college students talking about the Eagles football team and a young adult using the VSD app to communicate during grocery shopping. And then another link that shows two teenagers that are talking about a YouTube video together using the same technology. And these are actually both video visual scene displays. So they're watching a video and then it'll pause and have those communication supports within. And VSDs can also support, lastly, independence. So for people with minimal speech or would benefit from AAC, you can kind of use a video model of a particular activity with speech embedded within it to support daily routines, employment settings. So if someone's working a job and they do a similar routine in their job, you can have a video of that routine and maybe they have to go check in with their boss or talk to a customer. You can have communication supports within that video. Okay, So again, some of the ways we can use VSDs for early language learning, they can really be a gateway to communication and language development. If we think about that video we just watched with a really young child and blowing a raspberry with his mom, he now has a way to kind of get his mom to do that motivating activity and maybe learn some of those words in the process. They allow for greater agency over their communication because if a child's really interested in something, an activity, then we can add that vocabulary right in the moment. And for AAC users or people with minimal speech who might already have complex systems to support their communication, it can be a supplementary support in particular contexts or support less intelligible speech for people who might have some speech, but it's harder to understand for some communication partners, and allow for greater independence or social participation in certain activities. Oh. I do want to note too that all of the examples I've given so far are using VSDs within a tablet app or a phone app, but you can even make low-tech or paper-based visual scene displays as well. This is a grainy and black and white example, but what was done here is you take a picture of the activity or a picture of the storybook that you're reading, you print it out. If you have access to it, you can laminate it and then print out another copy and cut out the different motivating things in that activity. So maybe in the second copy, you cut out the slide, maybe you cut out the different toys down here, and then you can put them on the full page with like Velcro or something like that. So when you're interacting in this play activity, the child could pull the slide off of the page to say they want to go down the slide. They could pull off the different toys to ask to play with those toys. They could pull off the toy and then pretend to slide it down the slide if they want to slide the toy down the slide. So you can use the same kind of supports in a paper-based context as well if that's more accessible than one of the apps. Okay, so one way that VSDs can be really supportive of especially early language development, communication, participation is during interactive shared storybook reading. And the examples here again are with children, but you could do this with someone of any age with a concept and topic that was motivating to them. Okay, so interactive shared reading is really focusing on encouraging the child or the person to become active participants in a conversation about the book. So a lot of us do this really naturally, whether our children use speech or not, where you're reading the storybook, allowing opportunities for the child or individual to, pausing if they want to communicate or point to anything, asking them to look at different pictures in the book. An interactive shared reading also entails focusing your communication on the book, so the storyline, the characters, and then the adult partner aims to build upon what the child already knows and expand their language and knowledge of the world. So one thing that storybooks are great for is to give us access and knowledge about things we might not encounter in our day-to-day lives. So if your young child hasn't had the opportunity to go to the zoo and you read a book about different animals, they can start to get information about different animals or animals that aren't at the zoo, and learn those concepts and learn more about the world. So again, these visual scene displays can be a great way to target those skills during interactive shared reading for children or individuals with minimal speech or who use AAC or different types of communication supports. So here's an example of what a storybook and one of these visual scene display apps might look like. We have all the pages of the books added in to one kind of continuous scene. You can see we have our first page with Elmo on there, and at the top there are, I don't know why it's advancing automatically, my apologies. We have the different pages of the book. So as you go through each page, you can tap on the next page to read the next page and the next page. A lot of kids pick up on this very quickly and they can navigate to a page that they want. As I'm sure many of you experience, kids often like to read the same pages over and over again, so they can go to the page that they're excited about independently as well. And then within those storybooks, you can add those hotspots with different vocabulary that will help the child learn those words or individual, and also potentially provide more opportunities for participation and communication. So here on this page, we could add a hotspot around Elmo, and it could say, Elmo. We could add one around his hand and say, hello. We can add one around Baby David and say, Baby David, or snuggle. So there are lots of opportunities to kind of add in those concepts that are motivating, familiar to your child or the individual you're working with. And if you didn't have a hotspot in Baby David and the child touched Baby David, you could add one in the moment and record it to say Baby David. I'm actually not a huge fan of Baby David, so I probably wouldn't have recorded that myself, but some kids love Baby David, who is Elmo's stuffed animal. Okay, so for the rest of our time, we're going to do an interactive activity if you'd like to participate. So in this activity, we're going to program or create some visual scene displays for an interactive shared storybook reading activity. If you'd like to participate, there's a QR code to download either one of these apps again. Go Visual Experience works with an iPad or an iPhone, and then EasyVSD works with an Android phone or tablet. I do want to let you know that EasyVSD is actually a program that was created for research. So if you're using an Android system, there's not really any support if anything were to malfunction in the app, but it is a free option. So I'll give you all a minute if you'd like to participate and would like to download one of these apps. We'll give you a minute or so. And we'll go through all the steps together of how to create a visual scene display. Hop over to our first step. We'll go through the steps for Go Visual first and then for EasyVSD. So when you download the app, it'll ask you to enable some different things on your phone or tablet. You do need to enable at least your camera and microphone to create VSDs. So once you do that, you should see a screen that looks kind of like this. It says Go Visual, and it has a little settings menu on the left and then a plus sign at the top on the right. To add a new visual scene display, you're going to select that plus sign in the upper right-hand corner, choose blank scene display, and then choose camera, because we're going to take a picture with your phone or iPad with the camera. And once you are there and you've got your camera ready, it'll pop up and ask you what type of visual scene display you want to make. You can stop there because we're going to see if anyone is using an Android device. We'll pop over to those instructions. So once you download and open EasyVSD, make sure you're in create mode. So it's kind of hard to see, but in this upper right-hand corner, if you select those three little dots, there are different modes, and you want to make sure you're in, sorry about that, has a mind of its own, create mode. Once you're in create mode, you should see this green camera, pink camera, and a couple other buttons. What you're going to do is choose either the green camera or the pink camera to also take a picture of a storybook. And I want to mention if you're using if you're using Go Visual, once you click the add a new scene display, it'll pop up with how do you want to add it, your camera, do you want to add a visual scene display or a video visual scene display. So we're going to add just the typical one-page visual scene display using our camera. All right, the next step is to take a picture of our storybook or the activity that we're engaged in. So if you decided to download the app, you can take a picture with this storybook page, or if you have a storybook nearby, you're welcome to take a picture of that as well. So we're going to take a picture with the app. So we have one storybook page in there to think about what kind of vocabulary or words we can add in. I'll give you a second if you want to take a picture. And if you are joining in this activity and you're having any technical difficulties, feel free to put them in the chat too, and we can brainstorm. Okay, hopefully if you're following along, you've been able to take a picture of this storybook page or another storybook you have nearby. And the next step is going to be adding in those hotspots for communication and participation. So for Go Visual, it'll look something like this. You'll have Cookie Monster in there. You're going to want to touch the big green plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. Then draw around whatever you want to add vocabulary for on the screen. So around Cookie Monster, around the cookies, around his pajamas. And then you'll click the green plus sign. No, sorry, the green check mark then to say, yep, that's where I want my hotspot. A little countdown will pop up here that says 3, 2, 1, and then you can say whatever you want the hotspot to say. So it could be cookies or Cookie Monster loves cookies, whatever you wanted to say when that hotspot is touched. Okay. For Easy VSD, we're going to do something very similar. Where once you're on the page, you've taken a picture of the storybook page, you're going to touch that orange circle in that kind of upper left-hand corner to create one of those hot spots. So you're similarly going to draw using your finger around whatever concept is exciting and motivating in the book. In this big red barn, we've got the cow. And then you're going to touch the green microphone to record what you want that hotspot to say when it's selected. So cow or moo, whatever you think would be fun. And then once you've done that, when you touch that hotspot, the speech will play whatever you recorded. So moo or cow. Okay. Or even the cows on the farm, whatever you think would be fun. All right. Our next step is if you want to keep participating on your storybook page, maybe you added one hotspot, think about a couple more hotspots you could add. Oh, is this the same page? Yes, it is. Sorry. So maybe you added a hotspot for Cookie Monster. You could add some hotspots for other things going on in the picture. You can think about nouns like Cookie Monster, verbs like maybe mix, social words like, ooh, it's messy, or adjectives. So maybe blue, anything like that. So maybe take a few minutes if you're following along to think about what else you could add into the storybook page that might be fun for your child or individual in your family to touch to participate in the storybook reading activity. It could be a phrase as well, like Cookie Monster mixes the batter, or mix, 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 whatever you think would be fun. I'll give you a minute. And I will say I'm kind of flying through this, so sorry it's going to be a little bit shorter than anticipated. Okay, if you are following along in this activity or even just thinking about it as we went through, if you want to share what language you might have added or speech in any of the hotspots, I'd love to know. If there anything in particular you think your child or family member would find motivating in this scene, any words that you'd want to add so when they touched it, it would have that speech output of the word. So if there's anything you want to share, you can pop it in the chat. And we can see if we're adding in the same kind of words to our visual scenes. If you're not following along and you're just listening, no problem as well. Looks like we've got some people who are going to share maybe some of their hotspot vocabulary, so we'll give them a minute. Oh, thanks for sharing, Lauren. Yes, so we've actually done a fair bit of clinical work and some research with some kids who, on the autism spectrum, who, when they typically interact with a physical book, they'll take the book they want, they'll go sit in the corner, and they'll look through the book themselves. They might look at specific pages that they're motivated to look at or they're of high interest, certain things in certain pages, but they really struggle or are not interested in doing kind of shared reading with a communication partner. And we have found that even regardless of those hotspot communication supports, that putting those storybooks in a tablet can actually be motivating in and of itself, and sometimes have young children be more excited about reading with a communication partner. Adding those hotspots can also be a really interactive way. But you also make a great point that this is a way that if you set up a book, you take pictures of the storybook pages, you add in some hotspots to maybe help learn some of that vocabulary, make it extra fun, that a child could even read independently to themselves. You could even add in the actual storybook text so they can read to themselves. So you could add in a hotspot for what is Cookie doing, and it says, what is Cookie doing? Is he baking cookies? Is he baking a pie? And the child could even kind of read the storybook to themselves. Some even quite young kids pick up on how to create hotspots really quickly themselves. So if you are kind of interacting with them, they might touch that green plus sign, draw a circle around something to indicate, I want you to put some vocabulary here, which is really fun to see. Yes, so you might be surprised. Maybe, your child would actually be a little bit more motivated to read with you in a technology piece, but if not, still a great way to access books independently as well. Okay. So some of the hot spots that I've kind of alluded to that could be fun to add in the storybook page. I love the idea of adding in the text of the storybook to kind of a child can read it more independently, but we could also add things like Cookie Monster. We could add mix. You can even add batter if maybe you do a lot of cooking activities with your child or the individual. You could add milk or spoon. I worked with a child who loved doors, like he had a little plastic toy door that he would bring around. So actually in this book later on, people come and visit Cookie and they come in the door. And so we would add door to every page. So whatever is interesting and motivating to that child, it doesn't have to be what you think would be interesting for any child, but what that child would be interested in. So you could do the hat. I think there's a specific word for a chef's hat. I don't know what it is. Messy. You could add some phrases too, like mix the batter or cookies baking, whatever you think would be fun for your child. And if you're reading it together, they might be able to tell you what they think is fun, pointing to things in the scene themselves. Okay, that's kind of the last bit about visual scene displays and how to use them. There on the next slide are some opportunities if you're interested in learning more, want to participate in some research we've got going on. But I also wanted to give the opportunity now, if anyone has any questions and wants to pop them in the chat, in the Q&A. I guess I should go look at the Q&A. Feel free, any questions you might have or comments. I appreciate you sharing that comment, Lauren. Well, feel free to pop them in there at any point in time. Oh, go ahead, Jenny. Great question, Jenny. Yes. So really you can use the app with any book that you want. So it can be applicable to any reading level, any interest. So we'll often just, if we have physical storybooks that we know a child we're working with is interested in or particular topics, we'll just take real pictures of those storybooks themselves, open it up to each page, take a picture. So it could be anything of interest to any individual, really. Might be something they already read. And you can add in really whatever kind of vocabulary you want in terms of reading levels. So if it's like a really early language learner, you might think about adding in those single words to support both active participation and language learning. If it's someone who is at a bit of a higher reading level and it's really more about supporting participation, maybe asking questions, you could add in phrases or some of those question words to make the reading activity a little bit more applicable to someone who is a little bit more skilled or has a higher reading level. You could add in more complex books. So it's really the sky's the limit, whatever would be motivating and at the right kind of reading level for that person. Okay, yes, I'll pop to our opportunities for getting involved if any of you are interested. So we have two research studies going on right now. The first is really only in the greater Auburn area because it's in person. But like I would say within 45 minutes of Auburn is actually learning more about how to use these type of visual scene displays in shared storybook reading with your child. So if you live in this area and want to learn more about how to use these storybooks, that's what that study is specifically focused on. It's for kids ages 1 to 8, and it says less than 50 expressive words, but really if your child would just benefit from additional communication supports other than just speech. If you have any interest in potentially participating in that activity or just learning more about it, you're welcome to email me. My email is right there. Right now, we don't specifically have opportunities statewide, but we have thought about adapting what we're doing with learning about storybook reading to more of a Zoom-based or telepractice model. So we could do the same kind of activities, but you could be anywhere and just hop on Zoom. And we could participate in a storybook reading session with you and your child. So that is a next step. Right now, we are not focusing on that so much, but I think in the near future, we'd have opportunities to participate. As long as you have the ability to hop on a Zoom meeting, then you could participate from anywhere. And we'd provide you a copy of the app as well. The other opportunity, oh, go ahead, Jenny. Yes, so Auburn University has a speech language and, well, I guess it's called Speech and Hearing Clinic here at the university in our Department of Speech, Language, and Hearing Sciences. And we provide intervention services or assessment services for anyone of any age, actually. So whether or not it's young children on the autism spectrum, adults who might have had a stroke. So the Auburn University Speech and Hearing Clinic, which I should find that and pop the website in the chat. Let me do that right now. Oop. I mean, you could also Google, I guess, and find it pretty easily. It'd be the first result. But here is the link to the Auburn University Speech and Hearing Clinic. Again, we offer a variety of clinical services for people of any age with any communication need. We do have a few clinical faculty who even specialize in working with people with minimal speech. So we have some support if you're looking for clinical intervention services, generally for speech, language, and we also hearing. We have audiologists as part of our clinic that focus on supporting hearing as well. I would say I do believe that most of the universities in the state have a clinic associated with their speech and hearing department. A couple of them might not, but I would say it's always, if there's a university close by to you or close by, within maybe an hour radius from you or however far you're willing to travel. If you just Google that university and speech and hearing clinic or speech clinic, you should be able to find whether or not there's a university clinic near you. Or if you all are more familiar, yeah, I mean, university clinics can be a great resource because sometimes it's faster and easier to get services there than at a private practice, especially if your child's already getting early intervention services or services in the school. You can supplement that with working in a university clinic. They also usually have great clinicians because the clinical faculty have a lot of expertise in certain areas and then work with a lot of kids in that area. Or you're welcome to reach out to me and I can do any of this sleuthing. So I'm happy to be a support in any way that would be helpful. Oh, go ahead, Jenny. I'll keep an eye on the chat. Oh, go ahead, Jenny. Oh, that's great. Yes. So you can always look back and watch this or share it with anyone who you think might be of interest in learning about visual scene displays, some of these opportunities. Please share. Yeah, Autism Supportive Alabama has a lot of great resources. So, which you have already found out a little bit, but in case you want to learn more. Yes, I'll send those flyers to you all so you can share them. Which reminds me, the other opportunity we have right now is we really want to know about what your current reading experiences are. If you have a child on the autism spectrum whose speech doesn't meet their communication needs. So you can participate in this research anywhere because it's over Zoom as long as you have access to something to join a Zoom conference call with. So it's for young children, the caregivers or parents of young children on the autism spectrum who are 3 to 5 years old. There's a link here that's also a link in the PDF to participate, but I'll also, if anyone is interested, I'll also share the link here in the chat. Maybe if I can type it. And what that would entail is just hopping on Zoom for 30 minutes or maximum of the hour, depending on how much you want to talk, and having kind of an interview, a conversation about what kind of reading typically looks like with your child right now. Are there any things that you feel are really great supports? Anything that feels like barriers? How does your child currently interact with reading materials, whether that be storybooks, reading things in the environment, being interested in letters. We really want to learn more about what reading really looks like for this group of kids, because as you all might have experienced, a lot of the kind of interventions or way we think about reading are much more tailored to neurotypical kids who use speech, and we really want to help develop ways to support and guide supporting kids on the autism spectrum with minimal speech to be able to access supportive opportunities. And I think no one knows best about what the challenges are, what works, what that really looks like than the children's parents themselves. So if you're interested, feel free to click on that link. It goes to our consent form initially and then some background information, and then we reach out to you about finding a time to chat over Zoom. Or if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at that same email address, lep0083@auburn.edu. And I'll add that too, just so it's easily accessible. And really, if you have any questions at all that I could potentially provide some insight on, feel free to email me about really anything that I could be helpful about. All right. Oh, on that note, this last slide has some contact info. It's also on the PDFs for the presentation. My email's there. There's some, oh my gosh, I don't know what has a mind of its own. There's also some information about what visual scene display apps are actually available, what platforms they work on, whether iPads or Android devices, and then they all, or Go Visual, which is what we use today, and Snapseed, which is another similar app, both have a free trial version, so you can download that, try them out, see how you feel about it, see if you like it. These two apps are also in the schema of apps for supporting people with minimal speech, a little bit more affordable. I think they're both about $50, which is still not nothing, but a little bit more accessible than some of the other apps that are $200, $300. And it says here what different platforms they work with. Seen and Heard Pro is another app that has VSDs. It's a little bit more expensive. You can do a 1 month free trial with a subscription. It has a lot more functionality, but a little bit harder to see how it works without actually buying it. It's a little bit more expensive. Any like last or additional questions? Well, if we don't have any more questions, you can reach out to me anytime. I'll stop sharing. I think I succeeded at that.
You did. Laura Marie, thank you so much. Thank you for reaching out to me with the opportunities that Auburn has for us within that community, but sharing here, we're statewide. Those of you all that joined us today, please share this information. Again, we will have this up on our YouTube channel, and then we will have information about that, coming through our social media, so you'll be able to share it that way as well. Well, thank you again, Laura Marie, and thank you all for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat.
Absolutely. Goodbye.